My wife and I fought tooth and nail over the assets in our divorce. I leaked dirt on her old flame. She had someone break my sister's leg. Eventually, her old flame developed depression from the online hate, and she finally caved. She gave me the vast majority of our fortune, walking away with practically nothing. The day we signed the papers at the courthouse, she looked at me calmly and asked, "Nick, is money really so great that it's worth all this?" I sneered. If I wasn't after your money, what was I supposed to be after? Your cheap, laughable love? Walking out of the courthouse, I tilted my head back, looking at the distant sky through my fingers. The messy high society divorce saga that everyone in the city was talking about had finally reached its conclusion. 10 years together, 7 years married. Felt like my heart had been ripped out of my chest. Sophia, seemingly moved by my display of sorrow, walked over. She said softly, almost coaxingly, "Nick, if you regret this, we can—" But I used the divorce certificate to cover my mouth and cut her off. "Get away from me. The paparazzi are watching." I needed the heartbroken CEO persona to drum up hype for my company's new product launch in 2 days. The world is full of broken men, but not all of them have the courage to pick themselves back up. A small smile played on my lips. I could already picture myself on the Forbes list. Her concern was wasted on me. She gritted her teeth. "Nick Quinn, you're completely obsessed with money." I didn't even bother giving her a second glance. I tucked the papers away and got into my ridiculously expensive car. Money gives me security. What could Sophia give me? The terror of facing a life or death surgery alone. The panic of our child spiking a fever in the middle of the night. The desperation when my sister was in trouble. My private jet couldn't get clearance, and I tried to call my powerful wife for help, only to find out she was on a plane to go skiing abroad with her old flame? Or the humiliation of the latest bespoke suits being sent to him by default, instead of me, her own husband? The name Sophia White meant less than nothing to me now. In the top floor VIP suite of a private hospital, my sister Emily's leg was in a cast, but she was still hopping around like a cricket. She was dramatically reenacting for me how, while I was at the courthouse, she had stormed into the hospital room of that old flame, Leo, and given him a piece of her mind. I was the one visiting her, but she'd peeled an apple for me. I took a bite and handed her a contract with a grin. "This hospital used to be under White Industries. Now it's yours. Consider it compensation for your injury." Emily was completely floored. She slapped her cast-covered leg. "This isn't just some regular leg. This is my golden leg." Her face lit up with excitement. "Bro, does this mean I can go get the hospital director to kick that pretty boy Leo out?" Ever since she found out that Leo had intentionally used a flimsy excuse to call Sophia away during my critical surgery, Emily had given Sophia nothing but grief and made it her mission to torment Leo. Because on the night of my surgery, she was the only one there, just a teenager waiting outside the operating room all night long. She listened intently as the doctor listed all the potential complications, her hands trembling with fear, but she couldn't reach Sophia. And because she was a minor, she couldn't even sign the consent forms for a high-risk procedure. That night, Emily watched me have a brush with death. The once cocky teenager seemed to grow up overnight. After my son, Ian, was born, she was the one who took care of everything, his devoted aunt. Thinking about it made my nose sting. When my parents died, and Emily, my father's illegitimate daughter, was brought to me, I was a wreck. But I was only 15 then, and having suddenly lost my parents, I desperately needed family. I held back my tears at the funeral, but when they handed 3-year-old Emily to me, I hugged her tiny body and broke down completely. And over the years, she gave me so much strength. When I got married, she moved into the White family home with me, bags and all, insisting that wherever I went, she would go. When my marriage to Sophia fell apart, she stayed up all night, her voice hoarse by morning as she begged me to fight for custody of our son. She'd said, "Bro, it's too lonely with just the two of us left in the world. If we had one more person, it would be so much better." Now my son is 3 too. He wants nothing to do with Sophia, doesn't care much for playing with me, and is completely attached to his aunt. Thinking of this, I promised Emily, "Emily, trust me. I'll make Sophia pay tenfold for what she did to you." Emily rubbed her nose, looking a little guilty. Just as she was about to speak, there was a knock on the door. My executive assistant walked in. "Mr. Quinn, Ms. White requests that Ms. Emily come downstairs to apologize to Mr. Ito." Emily instantly bristled like an angry rooster. "Apologize? To that pretty boy? Has my ex-sister-in-law lost her mind?" Cleared my throat. Emily quickly corrected herself. "Ex-sister-in-law. Right, ex-sister-in-law." My assistant, Ben, calmly explained. After Ms. Emily left his room this morning, Mr. Ito was rushed to the emergency room. I remembered her telling me she'd had someone toss a snake onto Leo's bed. This was giving me a headache. I wondered if that woman Sophia had checked the security cameras and saved the footage. Emily flopped back onto the bed, completely unbothered. "Worst case, she can break my other leg," she said, as if she had nothing left to lose. "I'll be good as new in 3 months anyway." I didn't let Emily go downstairs. I went myself. The VIP suite on the top floor of White Hospital had originally been for Leo. Back then, Sophia was refusing to grant me a divorce, and I was secretly hoping their relationship would heat up so she'd finally cut me loose. I just turned a blind eye. But not long after, Sophia had someone hurt Emily, so I forced the hospital to clear out the VIP suite for her. Sophia must have felt guilty about Emily, because she didn't say a word, just had the hospital clear the floor below for Leo. But that was then. Now, this hospital was mine, part of the divorce settlement. Unwanted guests had no business being on my property, making a nuisance of themselves. When I reached the hospital room, a bodyguard blocked my way, but I could still hear Sophia's furious voice from inside. "How long are you going to keep this up? My patience is wearing thin, you'd better—" Her sentence was cut off by the bodyguard's knock. I clicked my tongue in disappointment. A momentous occasion like a divorce, and this trashy couple was fighting instead of setting off fireworks to celebrate? The door opened. When Sophia saw me, a flash of panic crossed her face. She quickly regained her usual cool composure. I crossed my arms, lifted my chin slightly, and said coldly, "Ms. White, I hear you want my sister to come down and apologize to Mr. Ito?" Sophia's brow furrowed. "Apologize?" She glanced behind her, then dropped the subject. "The hospital is under Emily's name now. I'll have Leo transferred to City General as soon as possible." I was deeply disappointed by her reasonableness. I was hoping for a big fight, a chance to stir the pot and maybe slap them both around. Now that the matter was resolved, I just shrugged. "Then please do it quickly, Ms. White." The frustration in Sophia's eyes was palpable. She said in a low voice, "Nick, I've given you everything you wanted. Can't you at least speak to me civilly?" I looked at her, feigning shock. "You had someone break my sister's leg, and you have the nerve to ask me to be civil? My God, did you feed your moral compass to the dogs along with your sense of shame?" Sophia fidgeted with her silk scarf, her voice weary. "Nick, I've told you so many times. I didn't have anyone break Emily's leg. I know what she means to you. Why would I ever hurt the only family you have left? I just couldn't get away that day, so I asked Isabella to go talk some sense into her. I didn't know she would get physical. I cut her off. Let me be clear, Sophia. I was willing to tolerate your little boy toy for the sake of the settlement. But you hurt my sister. The moment you did that, I would have given up every last penny to divorce you. Isabella is your best friend. She did it for you. You don't think I'd hold you responsible? I'm telling you, this isn't over." Sophia said nothing more, just stared at me with her deep, complicated eyes. I turned and left. I used to love Sophia. After my parents died, Emily and I saw the best and worst of people. I didn't trust anyone, except for Sophia, but she made me a fool in front of the entire world. We met my sophomore year of college. Everyone in the international student community knew about the boy who brought his little sister with him to study abroad. I was rushing to finish my degree so I could take over the family business, all while juggling Emily's life and school. I was constantly spinning my wheels. Sophia's appearance felt like a godsend. She was a rising legend in the finance world, incredibly popular with students, and the university had to pull a lot of strings to get her to give a lecture. After her talk, I seized the opportunity, chasing after her to ask a ton of questions. Her assistant was already rushing her to leave, and I thought I'd missed my chance. But instead, she took down my contact info and, after a late meeting that night, patiently answered every single one of my questions. As we got to know each other, she not only gave me a lot of advice on running a business, but after learning about my situation, she started taking Emily to do things girls like. She said that a girl needs the guidance of a mature woman as she grows up. She gave Emily the kind of companionship a mother would. For a long time, Sophia was like a sister and a mother to Emily, someone incredibly special. So when she cheated, it didn't just hurt me. It hurt Emily deeply, too. The gratitude I once felt for her turned into a burning hatred. A few days later, my company launched its new product line, and it was a massive success. The whole city was talking about my story. The headlines in the business sections were all young entrepreneur Nick Quinn, not Mr. Sophia White. I was so incredibly grateful to myself for never giving up on my career, even after getting married. At the film festival a month later, movie stars of all ages walked the red carpet wearing watches from a brand under Quinn Enterprises, stunning everyone. As an investor, I also attended the after-party. I wasn't surprised to run into Leo there. He started his career young but never really took off. Then he met Sophia, and she single-handedly turned him into an A-list celebrity. What I didn't expect was that the watch he was wearing tonight was my very first creation, from when I was 20. It was a platinum watch I had designed, which Sophia had commissioned a master craftsman to make. I had worn it at my wedding. On our wedding night, Sophia carefully put it away, saying we'd take it out on our golden anniversary and have another wedding. They really knew how to disgust me. Leo noticed the change in my expression and smiled triumphantly. He walked up to me, his long fingers stroking the watch face. "Mr. Quinn, what do you think of this watch?" he asked, feigning distress. My agent said he couldn't borrow any accessories from Quinn Enterprises, so Ms. White let me use this piece from her collection. Everyone around us turned to look. I just smiled. I handed my champagne flute to a waiter, pulled my phone out of my suit pocket, and dialed Sophia's number. She picked up quickly, her voice sounding almost flattered. "Nick, you're calling me?" I took a deep breath and said calmly, "Sophia, I don't care where you are. Get to this banquet hall in the next 10 minutes. Just giving you a heads up, I'm about to go on a rampage. Don't forget to call an ambulance." I hung up and tossed my phone to the waiter as well. The color drained from Leo's face. "Nick Quinn, are you crazy? You're gonna start a fight in front of all these people? Aren't you afraid Quinn Enterprises stock will plummet tomorrow?" I slapped him across the face, cutting him off. "I really don't get it. A powerless, brainless pretty boy like you sees a titan of industry like me, and your first instinct isn't to run and hide? You just have to keep provoking me, don't you?" Leo stumbled and fell to the floor. The hall went dead silent. I rolled my wrist, grabbed the pretty boy by the collar, and hauled him up, slapping him again. "Stock price drop? Trust me, after tonight's story, ex-husband's epic showdown with vicious pretty boy, the entire internet will be singing my praises. I only kept you around to help me get a divorce. Now that I'm free of that garbage woman Sophia, you think you mean anything to me?" He was trembling, covering his face, afraid I'd hit him again. But the look in his eyes was full of hatred, and for a second, I thought he might have some ace up his sleeve. But in the end, he said nothing. I scoffed, squatting down beside him. I gently removed the watch and patted his cheek. "The trash Nick Quinn throws away can only be thrown away by me. You dirted my things. Tell Sophia I'm adding this to her tab." Just as I finished speaking, the doors to the hall burst open. Sophia rushed in. She glanced at me, then went to Leo's side and helped him up. "If you've had your fun, go home," she scolded him in a low voice. Leo's face was a mess of tears. Any other time, Sophia would have already been chewing me out. But this time, she ignored Leo and stared straight at the watch in my hand. Seeing that she seemed to understand what had set me off, I gave a cold laugh. "All right, isn't he supposed to be depressed? Take him to the hospital." I got my phone back from the waiter, exchanged a few pleasantries with some acquaintances, and left. Sophia chased after me as I was getting into my car. She grabbed my wrist, her voice frantic. Nick, I didn't know. This was the first time since Leo had entered our lives that she had abandoned her little lover to explain herself to me first. How disgusting. I pulled my hand away. It doesn't matter anymore, I said indifferently. I was going to have this thing destroyed anyway. Sophia's face went pale. Nick, believe me, I really didn't know. You already gave me the watch, so it's mine. Please, let me handle it. I gave her an emotionless look. You always kept this watch in your personal safe, I said sarcastically. Tell me, Sophia, who could possibly open your safe without you knowing? She pressed her lips together, unable to answer. I opened the car door and slid inside. As the car slowly pulled out of the parking lot, I saw in the rearview mirror that Sophia was still standing there. She actually looked devastated. I shook my head and asked my assistant, Ben, in the front seat. When I was in the hospital after that major surgery, she didn't even look this upset when she showed up the next day. Why does she look like her world is ending over a watch? Ben, calm as ever, pushed up his glasses. Mr. Quinn, perhaps Ms. White feels that if you destroy this watch with its special meaning, there will truly be no chance for the two of you to reconcile. I shuddered. Ben, I advised kindly you need to read fewer romance novels. That stuff will rot your brain. I gave the watch to Ben to have it destroyed. The next morning, I had our legal team send a letter to White Industries. Mr. Leo Ito had stolen my watch the previous night. I was demanding $50 million from the CEO of White Industries as compensation for emotional distress. Our head of legal was baffled. The story had hit the headlines late last night. And didn't the reports clearly state that the watch belonged to Ms. White? He probably didn't think we had much of a chance of getting the money. But he didn't ask questions. He just did as he was told. To everyone's surprise, less than 2 hours after the letter was sent, $50 million was wired to my personal account. I sneered inwardly. 3 years ago, Quinn Enterprises had a cash flow crisis. I went to Sophia for help. She had originally agreed to invest, but after meeting with Leo, she backed out. That day, I locked myself in my room, finally accepting that the only person in this world who could save me was myself. That night, I went back to the old Quinn family estate, gathered the antiques my father had collected, and went to an old family friend for a loan. I was all alone back then, but now, for Leo's sake, Sophia was certainly quick to cough up the cash. I called Ben into my office. Give me an assessment. If I decide to blacklist Leo and go head-to-head with White Industries, what are my chances? Ben adjusted his glasses. Mr. Quinn, although Ms. White transferred a majority of her assets to you, she is still highly respected in the industry. The divorce has had little impact on her reputation, status, network, or resources. Against an ordinary person like Mr. Ito, you're the big dog. But against Ms. White, you're still the underdog. It wasn't easy to get Quinn Enterprises where it is today. I would advise you to be patient for now. I waved my hand, dismissing him. Just as he reached the door, I spoke again. Leak the evidence that Leo forged his psychiatric diagnosis report. That damn pretty boy, pretending to have depression. When did the bar for depression get so low? If I hadn't needed it to get the divorce done smoothly, I would have exposed him long ago and let them tear each other apart. A week later, I received an invitation from the Booth family of Northwood. Mrs. Booth was turning 60, and the family was inviting the city's elite to celebrate. I smiled. After Isabella attacked Emily, Sophia must have been worried I'd come after her, because she sent her out of the city that very night. My people searched everywhere she might have gone but found nothing. But now, with her mother's birthday, she was bound to show up. I waved Ben over. Go find me a baseball bat, one exactly like the one Isabella used on Emily. No gift wrapping. I'm going to deliver it to her personally. A rare flicker of confusion crossed Ben's usually stoic face. Mr. Quinn, what are you planning to do? He advised cautiously. Sir, my salary only covers my duties as an assistant. Accessory to a crime costs extra. Besides, that bat was a limited edition signed by a famous player. Even with a broken leg, Ms. Emily was careful to treasure it. I stared at him, my face blank. He immediately put on a professional smile. Of course, Mr. Quinn. Leave it to me. On the day of the Booth family's banquet, I arrived in a bespoke suit, outshining every other guest. Another free ad for my own designer brand. I didn't expect to run into Sophia at the entrance. In the twilight, she was a graceful figure in a handmade rose-colored gown, exuding a captivating, mature charm. At least she didn't bring her little boy toy today. She probably knew he wouldn't be presentable at an event like this. I couldn't be bothered with her and walked straight into the main house. Because I was planning to cause a scene later, my birthday gift for Mrs. Booth was especially lavish. So lavish that even Sophia, who presented her gift after me, looked surprised. Mrs. Booth beamed, taking my hand and inviting both me and Sophia to open the dancing. "I'm getting old," she said lovingly. "I just love watching you beautiful young people dance." I was about to refuse, but then I remembered I was planning to break this kind old woman's daughter's leg later. Might as well let her be happy for a little while. When the music started, Sophia and I took our places in the center of the dance floor. Every step, every turn was so perfectly synchronized it annoyed me. I was born into wealth, learning calligraphy at 3 and piano at 4, but I could never dance. Before my college graduation, it was Sophia who took the time to teach me for the graduation ball. She even converted a spare room in her house into a dance studio for it. That day was also Emily's birthday, so I left after learning for a bit. Halfway home, I realized I'd forgotten Emily's gift and rushed back to Sophia's house. The villa was dark, but on the second floor, in the dance studio, Sophia was dancing a tango all by herself. She was completely absorbed, every movement radiating an intense, dangerous energy. It was sexy and passionate, yet full of aggression. It struck me then that this was her true self. If my feelings for her before had been more about respect and admiration, that was the moment I fell for her. That's why, later, when she stood by Leo time and time again, I always told myself she must have her reasons. I forgave her too many times, until all my love was worn away. As the dance ended, Sophia spun me out of the crowd and away from the ballroom. The moment we were outside, I yanked my hand away. "I'm in a bad mood. I suggest you don't provoke me right now." She grabbed my arm again, pulling me to a secluded corner of the garden. With no one around, Sophia's voice was tight with restraint. "Nick, can you please just—" I cut her off immediately. "No, Sophia, whatever you're about to ask, don't. Just save it. I will never again agree to anything you want." I composed myself and turned back, only to see her head slightly bowed, a storm of pain in her eyes. It was as if some hidden emotion was about to crush her. I let out a breath and said calmly, "Ms. White, no one gets away with crossing Nick Quinn. That's right, I was the one who leaked that Leo was faking his depression. You're his backer, so of course you can protect him. But I'm not that helpless little boy I used to be. I, Nick Quinn, am my own greatest backer. So, put a leash on your dog, and don't let him get in my face again." Sophia's hands, hanging at her sides, clenched into fists. She rarely showed her emotions so openly. If we really got into a fight, I wasn't sure I could win. I was about to leave when she spoke in a low voice. "Did you think I came to see you because of Leo? Nick, if I told you that you've always been the only one in my heart, would you believe me?" I rolled my eyes. "Ms. White, are you trying to make me die laughing so you can get the money back? Do you have any idea how much blood I lost on that operating table? Do you even know what acute sepsis is? Do you know how scared I was when Emily got into trouble in East City? Do you know what kind of slow, agonizing torture it was for me to watch you stand by your little lover time and time again, crushing my hope?" I couldn't take it anymore. I slapped her hard across the face. I hit her so hard my own palm went numb. "Can you just give me the old Sophia back? If you don't love me, then don't love me. Why did you have to use someone else to disgust me? Am I that worthless to you?" The slap I'd been wanting to deliver for so long finally landed tonight. But I just felt exhausted. Without another look at Sophia, I turned and walked away. When I got to the parking lot, my men already had Isabella cornered. I'd had them lure her out using Sophia's name. To her credit, even knowing it was a trap, she still came. The Booth family bodyguards were standing at a distance. When I arrived, Isabella was yelling, "Stay back. This is my debt to pay, and I'll pay it myself. I didn't waste words. I held out my hand. Ben handed me the baseball bat. After my earlier outburst, I felt terrifyingly strong. In this world, the nice guys always get screwed over. So I'll be the petty bastard who gets his revenge. Let's see who dares to bully me or the people I care about. I raised the bat, ready to break Isabella's leg. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was Emily's custom ringtone. I tossed the bat to Ben and answered the phone. Emily's voice was incredibly cautious. Bro, if I told you that my broken leg was actually my fault, would you be mad at me? I kept my face stern and didn't say anything. Emily immediately spilled the beans. I was so angry that day I started the fight. Isabella did hit my leg, but she didn't break it. After she left, I was worried the injury wasn't serious enough for you to finally decide to divorce my ex-sister-in-law. So, I hit it again myself. Bro, I was scared. You and her were fighting so hard over the assets. Neither of you would back down. I was afraid you couldn't let her go. But I could see you weren't happy at all back then. I didn't want you to be tangled up with that trashy couple anymore. I just want you to be happy, bro. I hung up and looked at Isabella. There wasn't a trace of guilt on her face. She had probably figured out the truth. After all, she knew how much force she'd used. She was Sophia's best friend, and she'd watched Emily grow up. Otherwise, Sophia would never have asked her to talk some sense into Emily. It's true what they say. The bystander sees all. Just how much of a failure was my marriage that my own sister and my wife's best friend both wanted us to get a divorce as quickly as possible. I took my keys and drove back to the old Quinn family estate by myself. After I got married, Emily and I moved out. Emily didn't care where she lived, but this place meant the world to me. This was where I grew up. Every tree, every blade of grass held memories of me and my parents. After I gave up on Sophia, I stored everything related to our relationship here. In my mind, I had separated the Sophia who made my heart race when I was young from the Sophia who disgusted me after she met Leo. So I had subconsciously held on to the mementos from when we were in love. I always wanted to prove that she had once loved me, sincerely and passionately, that I hadn't lost completely. But it turned out the entire relationship was a mistake from the very beginning. That night, I destroyed the last of my memories with Sophia. The first texts she ever sent me, the gifts she gave me when she was pursuing me, the time Emily was bullied at school, and Sophia got into a fight for the first time in front of me. I had secretly saved the security footage. Expired passports, filled with stamps from all the countries we traveled to together. The guest signature board from our wedding. Every little thing. It should have all been erased long ago. The next day, the official Quinn Enterprises account posted on X. Quinn Enterprises CEO Nick Quinn and Ms. Sophia White have divorced amicably. All legal proceedings have been completed without dispute. Mr. Quinn will no longer be answering any questions regarding Ms. White in any public forum. I gave Ben my instructions. All businesses under Quinn Enterprises are to scale back cooperation with White Industries. Sell my shares in White Industries. Give Sophia the first right of refusal. And from now on, if Sophia wants to see our son, Emily will go with them. I won't be present. Don't forward any of her calls to me. A flicker of surprise crossed Ben's usually unflappable face. Mr. Quinn, White Industries is growing rapidly. Isn't selling the shares now a bit of a loss? I kept my eyes on the document in my hand. It is a bit of a loss. In that case, we'll cancel your bonus this month, Ben. That should help cover it. Ben left with a look of utter despair. I worked late that night. When I got down to the parking garage, I saw a top-of-the-line supercar parked next to my luxury sedan. Ben looked nervous. Mr. Quinn, I told security not to let Ms. White's car in. But she drove a different car today. This one wasn't registered. I shot him a glare. Sophia got out of the supercar. She was wearing a sharp pantsuit, a weary look on her face. Nick, we need to talk. I glanced at my watch. 5 minutes, I said flatly. We can talk right here. She opened her car door. It's important. Let's at least talk in the car. I didn't move, just waited. Sophia looked at Ben. Ben didn't move either. She finally sighed and spoke. Ben, if a word of what I'm about to say gets out, the market value of Quinn Enterprises will drop by at least $5 billion tomorrow. So, right now, go stand by the elevator and make sure no one comes over. Ben glanced at me. I nodded. He turned and walked away. Sophia came to my side, took a deep breath and said tiredly, Nick, Leo is your brother. Your full-blooded brother. Seeing no reaction on my face, she knew I didn't believe her. She stepped closer and whispered, shortly after we got married, your father's lawyer found me and gave me the will he had prepared. Your father didn't just have Emily. Leo was his illegitimate son, raised abroad. His mother was the true love of your father's life. Your mother and Emily's mother, they were both just substitutes for her. Your father wrote his will when he was 40. If anything happened to him, you would take over Quinn Enterprises. But when you turned 25, you were to hand the company over to Leo. The reason I put up with Leo was because I made a deal with him. I would give him wealth and resources equivalent to Quinn Enterprises, satisfy his demands, and in return, he would take this secret to his grave. I stared at her in shock. I couldn't accept it. The father who had doted on me my whole life had only ever seen me as a tool. The love between my parents was all a lie, and the woman I shared my bed with had hidden it all from me, claiming it was for my own good. All my years of grief, pain, and longing felt like a sick joke. Leo. Even his name showed that he was born with his parents' love and hope. I grabbed the front of Sophia's jacket, my voice shaking. If you were going to hide it, why not hide it from me forever? If you made a deal, why did you have to tell me? She closed her eyes, her voice filled with pain. Because I knew you were cutting me off for good. Nick, I know what your parents mean to you. They died when you were at your happiest, and Quinn Enterprises is the last thing they left you. I wanted to protect that last sacred piece of your heart. But I love you, Nick. I had already secured all the documents from the will. I was about to send Leo to live abroad permanently. If you had just waited a little longer, I could have won you back. But you were giving up on me completely. Nick, if the price of keeping this secret was losing you forever, I'd rather reveal everything. She took my hand and pressed it against her abdomen. Remember when you had your surgery and I said I was on a business trip? When I found out how serious it was, I was so devastated, I stabbed myself. I was in a coma in the hospital that whole time. I pushed her away, stumbling back as if I'd been burned. Sophia looked at me steadily and continued. That time Quinn Enterprises needed an infusion of cash. I did promise Leo the first wouldn't help you. But I traded that plot of land on the west side for your father's old friend, Mr. Peterson, to help you instead. Nick, did you really think that after your father died, those old corporate sharks would still care about old friendships? And when Emily got into trouble in East City, I didn't take Leo abroad to go skiing. I took him to destroy the backup copies of the video recording of your father signing that will. The repressed agony in her eyes was like a knife plunging into my chest. I couldn't listen anymore. I felt weak and started walking towards my car. But after just 2 steps, everything went black and I collapsed. I woke up in the middle of the night in my own bed. Emily was sitting by my side, her eyes swollen like walnuts. When she saw I was awake, she started wailing like a tea kettle. Nick! Even though me and that pretty boy Leo are both illegitimate, I'm one of the good ones. I'll always be on your side, so please don't hate me. My head was throbbing. I lifted my hand, and she immediately leaned down, rubbing her head against my palm like a cat. Don't worry, bro. That Leo guy won't get anywhere. You've been running Quinn Enterprises for years. It's not like one little will from Dad can just hand it over to someone else. If he wants to fight for the inheritance, then I will too. We're both illegitimate. Who does he think he is? I'll fight for all of it and give it all to you. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The only good thing my father ever did in his life was probably having Emily, this little angel, and sending her to me. Seeing me smile, Emily asked in a small voice, "So, are you going to forgive my ex-sister-in-law?" I glanced at the shadow in the crack of the doorway and paused. Then I shook my head. Have you forgotten what a wreck I was during my surgery? It took me so long to piece myself back together. bone by painful bone, and learn how to save myself. It was hell. I don't want to walk that road again. Everyone has to face the consequences of their choices. She hid the truth to protect me, but she hurt me by hiding it. No matter what her reasons were, my pain and my breakdown were real. I cannot blame her. I can even be grateful, but I can't trust her again. Emily rubbed her nose and fell silent. The shadow outside the door, Sophia, didn't come in. 3 months later, Sophia still hadn't managed to send Leo abroad. I, however, gathered evidence of his tax evasion and sent him to prison first. Like I said, no one gets away with crossing Nick Quinn. Leo had used his leverage over Sophia to provoke me again and again, both during and after my marriage. He should have been prepared to face my revenge. This time, Sophia didn't help him pay off his tax debt, nor did she bail him out. During this period, she seemed to have completely checked out of her responsibilities. Everyone was waiting for her to make back the fortune she'd given me, tenfold. What they got instead was a hands-on mom who took her son on trips everywhere, and a clueless benefactor who kept throwing projects at Quinn Enterprises. Another 6 months passed, and Emily couldn't take it anymore. She came to me to complain. My ex-sister-in-law has seriously lost it. My club at school was organizing a team-building trip, and somehow she found out and sponsored us for $1 million. And when I was in a dance competition, she actually showed up to cheer me on. Bro, do you get it? She's the CEO of White Industries, a legend in the financial world, and she was sitting in the front row, smiling and chanting, "Go Emily, you're number one," with all the guys from my class. I wanted to die of embarrassment right there. I pictured the scene and laughed so hard my face mask cracked. I knew what she was doing. She was trying to win over everyone in my life. She even gave Ben a supercar for his wedding. Now, whenever Ben mentions Ms. White, his eyes hold a look of unspoken longing. I'm kind of starting to ship them. That night, as I lay in bed, Sophia messaged me again from a new number. I'd lost count of how many numbers I'd blocked. This time, however, she didn't just say goodnight. She wrote, "Nick, one day I will have atoned for all my mistakes. I hope you can wait for me where you are. The day I can finally face you with my head held high, I will run to you with everything I have." I stared at the ambient lighting on the ceiling and blocked her new number. Perhaps all endings are written long before they arrive. Nick Quinn was never anyone's first choice. But Nick Quinn will love himself. From now on, I will live only for myself.